Poverty. Most people have an inherent sense of what it means to be poor, but choosing a definition is more difficult than that. What is poverty and who is the poor? What is a decent standard of living? Such questions have been asked for decades. Poverty means different things around the world. In Europe, the poor are those whose income fall below the 60% of the median. Britain uses three different measures: one relative, one absolute, and a broader indicator of material deprivation, such as whether the child could celebrate his birthday or not. The concept of poverty becomes even more slippery when attempting international comparison. The United Nations Development Index assesses countries with a range of indicators, such as schooling and life expectancy. Poverty is a condition that affects every country in the world. Worldwide, about 21,000 people die every day from hunger or poverty related causes, according to the United Nations. This is one person every 4 seconds. Sadly, children are who die the most. Yet there is plenty of food around the world for everyone. The problem is that hungry people are trapped in severe poverty. According to the social welfare textbook, poverty is described as an economic condition by which individuals and families are unable to meet their basic needs due to the lack of or inadequate financial resources. America's official poverty measures is far simpler. Developed in the 1960s, the poverty threshold represents the basic cost of food for a household multiplied by 3. A family is judged to be poor if their pre-tax income falls below this threshold. But the official measures only provide a blurry picture. Food spending has become a flimsy reference point. In 2009, groceries only accounted for 7.8% of American spending. The poverty indicator does not account for the programs that help the poor, such as Earned Income Tax Credit, nor does it adjust for regional variation in the cost of living. In the United States in 2012, 46.5 million people live in poverty. That means the poverty rate for 2012 was 15%. In 2012, poverty rate was 2.5 points higher than in 2007, the year before the 2008 recession. The number of people living in poverty in 2012 is the largest number seen in the last 54 years by which poverty estimates have been published. According to the 2013 U.S. Census, a total of 27.2% of African Americans and 23.5% of Hispanics live below the poverty line. Those elevated percentages directly affect the ability for upward mobility within our society.
Poverty does not discriminate. Poverty knows no boundaries. Poverty is not about a person's race, culture, religion, morals, or values. Merriam Webster's dictionary defines poverty as a lack of something. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, in 2013, the official national poverty rate was 14.5%, down from 15% in 2012. This was the first decrease in the poverty rate since 2006. In 2013, there were 45.3 million people living in poverty in the United States. In the state of Georgia, the percentage of people living below the poverty level was 18.2% in 2013. This equates to approximately 1,820,000 people at or below the poverty level in Georgia. The breakdown of male residents living in poverty in the state of Georgia by age group are as follows. Males age 18 to 24 equal 22.7%. Males age 25 to 34 equal 13%. Males age 35 to 44 equals 10.6%. The age breakdown for females is females age 18 to 24 equal 29.1%. Females age 25 to 34 equal 19.1%, and females age 35 to 44 equals 14.8%. The percentage rate of females living at or below poverty is higher than their male counterparts at all age groups. There are 159 counties in the state of Georgia. Of those 159 counties, 23 of them were at a rate of 30% poverty or higher. The three counties with the highest percentage rates of poverty are Ben Hill County, which has a 38.1% poverty rate. Calhoun County has a 38.7% poverty rate, and Clay County, which has a 44.7% poverty rate. Tax collections are an immediate reflection on the economic status of counties in a state. The three poorest counties in Georgia will be used to demonstrate the overall impact of poverty. Ben Hill County has a median income of $30,000 per year. The collected taxes for Ben Hill County were $86,710 in 2013. Calhoun County has a median income of $30,500 per year. That county collected taxes equaling $28,203 in 2013. In Clay County, the median income is $26,250 per year. The collected taxes for that county were $27,486 in 2013. In an effort to make a comparison, the median income for Gwinnett County was $63,219. That amount is more than double the poorest county's median income. The taxes collected for other counties in Georgia in 2013 are as follows. DeKalb County paid $5,930,980 in taxes in 2013. Fulton County paid $12,947,878 in taxes. Gwinnett County paid $7,067,885 in taxes, and Clayton County paid $1,791,676 in taxes in 2013. These numbers are generated from property taxes, motor vehicle registration and sales, and school taxes. These low numbers have a direct impact on money that will contribute to the educational systems in their prospective counties. The state of Georgia has 580,919 school-age children eligible for free or reduced lunches. This eligibility is based on household income. In Clay County, 97.7% of the student body receives free or reduced lunches. In Ben Hill County, it is 81.8%, and in Calhoun County, it is 92.4% of the student body. DeKalb County has 71.4% of their student body receiving free or reduced lunches, while Fulton County has 45.2%, and Gwinnett County provides 55.7%. Homelessness is another reflection of poverty. On any given night in Georgia, there may be up to 21,000 homeless people per night. As the handout demonstrates, poverty is a factor in every county in Georgia. The percentage rates are higher in the most rural areas. According to the textbook in social welfare, suburbs are not impacted as much as the urban and rural areas with poverty simply because people living in poverty cannot afford to buy into those communities.
Social structures and factors also have an impact on poverty in regard to the frequency and severity of this problem. Social structures refer to the way social positions, social roles, and networks of social relationships are arranged in our institutions, such as the economy, education, and the organization of the family. There are numerous studies since the 1980s that have indicated that a concentration of poverty increases the probability of isolation from mainstream institutions, which in turn can lead to lower education achievement, crime, dropping out of school, teenage pregnancies, substance abuse, domestic violence, and joblessness. Growing up in a poor family also has serious consequences because there's an absence of role models, social isolation from the job network, and weakened social institutions, among other things. Moreover, living in racially segregated poor neighborhoods can lead to negative effects such as the cool pose culture, which hinders social mobility. This culture is common among young black men in the inner city and glorifies sexual conquest, hanging out in the streets, hip-hop, and drugs. Another aspect of poverty is the social factor of location. Living in poverty can lead to negative health outcomes such as heart disease, diabetes, and even psychological disorders. One psychological disorder that is very prominent due to living in a disadvantaged neighborhood is stress. Stressors that tend to affect all members of the neighborhood are the high unemployment rates, high poverty rates, low levels of education, and the high residential mobility. These aspects are not seen in suburban neighborhoods. Another issue among chronically poor neighborhoods is incident depression. Incident depression is defined as having depression at follow up visits among those with no history of depression at the baseline. People living in poor urban neighborhoods had a greater likelihood of incident major depression. This is most likely due to being exposed to neighborhood disorder as well as environmental pollution such as vandalism, litter, and vacant housing. Even seeing teenagers hanging out, selling drugs, and robberies increase the risk of depression. People living in neighborhoods characterized by poor features of the built environment were more likely to report depressive symptoms than persons living in neighborhoods characterized by a better environment.
As you can see, psychologically, residents living in poverty are at increased risk for mental health problems. The American Journal of Orthopsychiatry found that poverty, acting through economic stressors such as unemployment and lack of affordable housing, precedes mental illness. Stressors such as having to constantly worry about money, bills, affording the next meal are all risk factors. Even in low-income neighborhoods, exposure to violence are more reported. Being in these conditions for significant lengths of time put a strain on mental health. Rogers notes symptoms of mental illness are more frequent in young adulthood and has an impact on functioning. Schizophrenia, a mental disorder which may result in debilitating hallucinations, delusions, disordered thinking, has 8 times more risk for those with lower socioeconomic status compared to those with higher socioeconomic statuses. The World Health Organization found drastically higher divorce, unemployment, and lack of high school education rates in those with schizophrenia. All these factors correlate with poverty. Poverty and mental health is cyclical, as stressful living environments contribute to developing a mental disorder, and those who develop them are incapable of working and denied opportunities. Additionally, they end up with ineffective health care because of the lack of financial resources. And what about their biological attributes? Rogers describes young adulthood as the peak of physical health, and it begins to decline later in young adulthood. However, for those in poverty, there is an accumulation of stress factors that have negative consequences on lifestyle habits. Habits such as smoking, overeating, substance abuse that are developed at this stage are established, which puts individuals at risk for illness and disease later in life. We can take a look at ways in which socioeconomic factors contribute to poor health. Poverty supports convenient, high-calorie processed foods. According to the Economic Research Service for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, 11.5 million Americans are both poor and live in low-income areas over a distance away from supermarkets with healthier food alternatives. This causes an increased risk factor for hypertension, obesity, and diabetes. Additionally, living conditions are more circumstantial to poor health, as the American Lung Association reports low-income and minority Americans live in areas with worse air quality. Research suggests these affordable areas are closer to industrial plants that contribute to air pollution. Air pollution contributes to asthma and cardiovascular diseases.
There are many cultural factors that come into play when talking about poverty. In the state of Georgia, the race with the highest percentages of people experiencing poverty is Hispanics. Looking deeper, we can see that there are cultural barriers that have an effect on why they may be experiencing poverty. One large obstacle is language. People moving to the United States from other countries usually do not speak English as their first language, therefore causing difficulty in getting essential things to support themselves and their families. Cultural factors also encompass behaviors and attitudes that are adapted by a family or group and then passed down generation to generation, but can also be factors that are unavoidable. For many middle adults who have grown up in poverty, they find it hard to find a well-paying job that is able to support a family. The average income for a family of 4 experiencing poverty in Atlanta is roughly $18,850 per year. A family of 4 would need more than twice that amount to obtain essential needs. Much of the difficulty people face in finding a well-paying full-time job is lack of adequate education, mostly due to lack of funding in the area they grew up in. Because of financial difficulties in their family, the culture they grew up in was more geared towards working and helping take care of the family, rather than attending school or continuing in higher education, therefore leading to hardships in middle adulthood to find jobs to support essential needs. Family issues also come into play when discussing poverty. Some people may inherit poverty, meaning that they were born into a family who is experiencing it. Many different studies show that it is very likely for people to move up in class, basically putting those in poverty to be stuck in poverty. On top of that, there are high rates of teen pregnancies in poverty-stricken areas, leaving young moms to support a child. A new study states that women who grow up in an area that has major income inequality and are experiencing poverty are more likely to get pregnant at a young age because there seems to be little hope of economic advancement. There are a variety of family issues that can affect poverty as well as to be affected by poverty. One of the most significant is that of single parents, mothers especially. Poverty and financial issues can cause stress on marriages, which in turn many times leads to separation or divorce. The stress of the marriage or relationship can unintentionally affect the child or children, if the couple has any. Children who grow up around strains in a parent's relationship can have a negative effect on the child's personality development. Stress from parents can likely cause the child to experience toxic stress, which occurs when there is lack of supportive relationships. This in turn can cause problems that are linked to unhealthy brain development in children, such as behavioral and learning problems, as well as health and physical problems. These problems can last far into middle adulthood, affecting relationships, jobs, and many more aspects of the person's adult life.
We use two theoretical frameworks to explain young and middle adulthood. The social disorganization theory, as proposed by Kubrin and Waitzer, explained that a person's residential location is a substantial factor that shapes individuals more so than their characteristics. The basic tenets are these dimensions of organization. Socially organized communities have solidarity and internal consensus on normal values. Impoverished communities can exist within crime-centric areas in which crime is a means of survival. Crime can be considered an operating mechanism and value in these type of communities. Additionally, there are differences in the meaning of normality. Cohesion. Strong bonds between neighbors. There is high residential mobility, and in impoverished neighborhoods have neighbors that often move in and out. What's the potential for development and social interactions in such situations? Integration. Social interaction between residents. What are the common values in order for residents to know, trust, and interact with one another? Without solidarity, cohesion, and integration, a community is considered socially disorganized and at higher risk for poverty and crime. The culture supports the perpetual cycle of poverty, sets of factors of events by which poverty, once started, is likely to continue unless there is an intervention. The causes of poverty according to this cycle: when residents have low salary, business failure, ignorance, lack of skills in technology, unhealthiness or disease, no ongoing education, and finally, the inability to access to resources such as land, finance, and information.
In the United States, the top 1% of Americans own 50% of all stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, while the bottom 50% own less than 1%. Within the bottom 50% of the population are over 15% of people who fell below the poverty threshold set by our government. Among all these services provided to Americans, one of the most important ones is education. Education is partially funded by homeowners paying taxes. This means our poor communities receive less funding for their students. This lack of funding has a direct result on students' learning and their ability to experience upward mobility and a way out of poverty. Our call of action. Our call of action as social workers is to advocate for change. We need to provide equal education to all students regardless of the funding from the property taxes. We need to provide an affordable higher education to the poor in order to increase their chances in upward mobility.